Welcome to Conversations Sin Miedo, a podcast where we break the stigma around mental health in the Hispanic community. I'm Sonia, and this is a safe space for open, honest conversations. Whether you're first generation, navigating cultural challenges, or just looking for a place to feel heard, we're here to talk about it all sin miedo y con corazón. Join me as we share stories, answer your questions, and create a community where vulnerability is celebrated. Let's start the conversation. All right. Hi. Welcome to Conversation Sin Miedo. I'm Sonia, and today we're diving into therapy, what it really is, how it fits into our culture, and how to navigate the process as a Latino or a Latina. Therapy is often misunderstood, especially in Hispanic households. So let's break it down sin miedo. So today, episode 3, so excited. Last week I feel like the past 2 weeks have been rough as a woman, as I refer to myself as Hispanic, but as a Hispanic female, not gonna get into it, but this week we're talking about navigating therapy as a Latino or Latina. And it's funny, I actually talked about this in therapy the other day because my therapist asked me, I say I'm Hispanic, and she's like, well, what does that mean to you? And she was just asking me, like, what's the difference, too? Like, she was really, genuine about it, like, what it means to me. And love my therapist. Shout out to her again. And I guess I've never explained it really. And it's a culture. Maybe I'll get into it later, but it was just so funny how I guess some things tie together. And I was like, that's funny. I'm actually going to talk about it on my podcast. She's like, I'm going to talk about navigating therapy as Latino or Latina, and telling her about the episode. And she's like, well, great. Like, that's, very supportive. Love that. So today we'll address misconceptions, talk about the difference between therapists and psychiatrists, discuss different types of therapy, and hear from someone who's overcome the stigma to seek help. So whether you've been curious about therapy or have hesitations, this episode's for you. So some misconceptions about therapy. So we probably heard therapy is for crazy people, or that it's not for everyone. I can't even think of how to even explain that, but how I don't know, a lot of the older generation, or a lot of people, just have that belief and common phrases of terapia, estás loco, are you okay? It's just seen so negatively, and it's really not. It's like I've said before, mental health is tied in with your physical health. It's tied in with everything. It's tied in with your nervous system and your brain and everything. So it's literally health. We hear these different things, and so that is far from the truth. Therapy is a tool for personal growth, healing, and understanding yourself better. So, like I said, many of our parents or grandparents, or the older aging generation, have this belief or this different view. And, for a lot of them, therapy wasn't an option, or was taboo, or was considered just, I don't know, it wasn't even 5 years ago. Now it's not really, it's still not a thing I guess a lot of people talk about, but that's something that I heard too, that I've heard a lot, and I saw it in an interview of 50 Cent, the rapper. He said, depression is a luxury. And when I think about that, um, like I understand it, but from my perspective, um, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of hard because I am a therapist. So I'm like, yeah, it can be if you let it, and there's so many options out there. There's like so many different ways to get into therapy. Like you don't have to be in person now. You could go on your phone, do Zoom, or it's kind of like FaceTime. But I feel like I still see that in a lot of friends I've talked to about too, and just other people that they are parents, or they're single parents, or like they're like, I can't, take the time for myself. I don't have time, or I have my child, or this and that. And, I don't have kids, but I sort of get that when they say depression is a luxury, that they're like, I can't take a day off. I can't focus on me. But remember, we said, how can you take care of someone else if you can't take care of yourself? If you can't put yourself first, and if that's going to the dentist, or going to a doctor, going to therapy, there's different things, and it's not easy, and it really took me a long time too, but it is important, and I think there's these barriers that we need to work on to understand it more. So yeah, for them, or parents or grandparents, their struggles were often handled in silence. They couldn't talk about it. They just held it in, and probably talked to friends, or probably got bad advice, or things like that. So now we have the chance to break that cycle and show that seeking help is a strength. It's not a weakness. I hate that it's seen as, well, you're weak, or I'm a man, I don't talk about feelings, or I'm too strong enough to talk about that. Like, again, seeking help is a strength. Vulnerability is a strength. And it's so important. It's not a weakness. I guess I don't really remember when I decided how old am I? I'm 26, and I started going with my therapist 3 years ago. No, I'm going to say 2 years ago. And I think I feel like it was easy for me because I am a therapist, so I know what to look for. So it's kind of hard for me to share what my experience are. But I, later on, after I talk about the difference of therapy and things like that, I was grateful enough to get some feedback and ask some very different perspectives of therapy. And hopefully later on too, like I said, we'll have guests and have more of a conversation with other people. But I'm very grateful that a couple of people I know were able to share these stories with me. So we'll get into that later. So the difference between mental health providers. So I want to get into this because there's literally so many. But if you're seeking a therapist, so a therapist is a licensed professional, such as a counselor or a social worker. Shout out social workers. I studied, and I'm a social worker too. Who provide talk therapy to help manage emotions and challenges. So going into types of therapy models, so this isn't something you have to look for, but maybe you want to. Maybe you want something specific. So I work with littles, so that is 5 years old to about 11 years old. So I work a lot with their parents. And for me, a lot of the time, I guess, we talk about goals and what they want, but there's different models of therapy. So, like, for you, if you wanted to start therapy and you wanted something specific, like, let's say you're feeling really depressed and you want something specific for that, or you had a trauma and something specific for that. It really just depends, but I guess I don't want you to overwhelm yourself into like, I need this and this and this, because every therapist, the biggest thing is confidentiality. Like 100%. This person has studied, this person has a license. So for me, I did my bachelor's, I got my master's. I had to do 700 hours of kind of like, it was my internship or my practicum, whatever. It was like following a therapist, seeing how sessions are. I worked full time from 8 to 4. And then from 4 to 8, I would go to the office I work at now and sit in on sessions, like sit in on therapy sessions with people, and gain my hours doing that. And that was like from August to May. And then, like, there's so much into it, so much schooling. So when I'm saying like these therapists have done the work, like it's kind of like a conversation, but it's different. It's not like, talking to your best friend. It's a professional, it's a licensed person that knows what to do. So like I said, there's different types of therapy models. So there is cognitive behavioral therapy. I really love this one. It's called CBT for short. And CBT focuses on identifying and changing negative thought patterns. So, like, if you think, I'm a failure, CBT helps you challenge that thought and replace it with something more realistic. So, I really genuinely like this model because I feel like something that is valuable for me is how our thoughts are and how it affects our behaviors and interactions, and like changing these thoughts and can make a ripple effect in a way. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about each one. There's trauma-focused therapy. So this approach helps people process and heal from traumatic events, often through methods like EMDR or narrative therapy. EMDR stands for something. Google, help a girl out. EMDR therapy. God, I should know this. I don't want to get it wrong. Oh, yeah. So it's eye movement desensitization in reprocessing. It sounds scary. It has nothing to do like poking your eyes, not a lobotomy, nothing like that. But yeah, it's literally a specific type, and it's actually really cool. And then narrative therapy, that is like through your narrative. It's that one's a really great one too, like telling your story and more focused on trauma. Family therapy. So sometimes healing isn't just about one person, it's about how family communicates and supports one another. Group therapy. In a group setting, you connect with others who share similar struggles, which can make you feel less alone. Imagine someone dealing with anxiety after a car accident. Trauma-focused therapy might address the root of that anxiety, while CBT could help with managing day-to-day symptoms. So, like if you're looking for a therapist, if you want something specific, you can kind of see what they specialize in and see like what, they are focused on. But like I said, all therapists have confidentiality, they have the basics, they have the understanding of like what to do in therapy, if that makes sense. So, there is next a psychiatrist, so a medical doctor who can diagnose mental health conditions and prescribe medications. I have a psychiatrist, love her too. She's so fun. And when I first started with therapy, she helped me with medicine and kind of understanding that. I didn't want to take medicine for many reasons. I know I'd forget. I didn't want to rely on something, but I tried it. It worked great. We figured out my plan. You know, she listened to me. I feel like that's the thing too. Like when you go to a doctor, like you got to find the right doctor. You have to find one that you want. Like I went to a doctor and they would not talk to me, and I want you to talk to me, and I want you to like explain this. I want to understand it. Or like I know people that are like, no, just tell me what to do and I'll do it, you know? So it's trying to find out which one fits you better, right? So kind of like with a therapist, you know, you're not going to find the perfect one right away. I mean, maybe you will. Cool. My first therapist, I liked her. I mean, I really what's the word? I researched and like it took me forever to go. So that helped too. And so yeah, like I said before, it's finding the right one and understanding that, you know, you could change therapists and you are the client, you know, you could figure out, hey, I don't like this, you know, just talking about them, communicating. That's a huge thing too. Psychological evaluations that test to like assess mental health and often by psychologists too. So those are just a couple main mental health providers. I know a friend that he told me he's a nurse practitioner for mental health. Oh, my bad. Shout out to you, friend. I can't remember your title, but I know he said he does deal with mental health and medication stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot of roles out there. So, finding a culturally competent therapist. So, this one is good. So trying to find someone who understands your background. So, like when you're looking online, like searching, okay, let me do this. Okay, Google. Let's see. So, look for therapists who mention like multicultural or bilingual services in their profiles, like so websites like Therapy for Latinx or Psychology Today allow you to filter by like cultural competence. So let me see. Cultural competence. Therapist near me. Okay, so where I live, yeah, you can really look for it and find some. Wow, there's a lot actually. I guess okay, culturally competent. Okay, can we like filter? You could do male or woman. You can see online or in person. Popular filters. There's addiction, ADHD, anger management, anxiety, grief. One insurance. Oh, that's a big one too. So I'm trying to see. Okay, adults. And I'm just going to put Hispanic. And Latino ethnicity. Okay, yeah, there's a lot. That's so cool. I didn't even know about this. So it tells you, and again, I need to start doing video, but I look so bad right now, so I'm glad I'm not doing video. But yeah, there's a lot of people on here. It says their info, like so easy to read. So that's a great website. I was on Psychology Today. And even like having your first session could be kind of scary too. It's like starting something new, having anxiety through that. But don't be afraid to ask, have you worked with Hispanic clients before? So, yeah, you can ask them pretty much any question you want, really, about what's important to you. When I first went to my therapist, I really didn't ask. So, but like I said, last time, I mean, she asked me, and but I do remember one time like I said something like, we're Mexican, like this happens or something, and she was like, really? I'm like, yeah, you don't get it. I can't remember what I was talking about, but I think I said something like we're a bunch of assholes, like we're so mean in my family, and like thinking about it now, I know it's not normal, but like I kind of see it now. She was like, really? Is this like, are you deflecting? So, yeah, that I don't know. When she asked that, she was like, "What does that mean?" And I was like, I can't explain it. It's a cultural thing, So I get that. It can be hard, but like I said, don't be afraid to ask, or even when you first meet them, like, well, this is something important to me in my culture, or I want someone that speaks Spanish. If you're fully or if you're bilingual or anything like that, those definitely are some other barriers too. But like I said, just trying to find those, just looking online. That Psychology Today website was actually pretty cool. So that one you could look at, and yeah, just looking. And there's even apps now. Like there's so many different ways to get therapy, but I know it could be hard with like insurance and money and finding the time. But usually therapy, I guess it just depends on your goals, but usually it's about I think like 45 minutes to an hour, most of the time an hour. You could have it structured if you want. You could just go in there and be like, this happened, this, or like I said, it really depends on what your goals are, what you want out of therapy, and finding someone. And so again, it just kind of starts taking that opportunity. Try it out. If you don't like it, okay, you don't have to go your whole life. Like I said, just kind of figure out your goals and what you want to get out of therapy. So, like I said, I have amazing people in my life that were open to sharing with me some of the questions that I wanted to talk about today. So, I'll get into that. And these people wanted to remain anonymous, so let me get situated here. So I'm just gonna, so these are two people, and I wanted to ask them a few questions. And so I first asked, so starting therapy. I asked, can you share a bit about when or why you first thought about seeking therapy? Was there a specific experience or feeling that motivated you? I'm just going to refer this to like person A, and then the second one, I'll say person B. Excuse me. So, person A said, the decision to seek therapy came after I felt that I was often distracting myself from everything, because anytime I had time to think, it was thoughts that came up, such as any unresolved feeling or past experiences such as trauma or grief or anxiety. I decided to seek therapy when I started feeling overwhelmed and felt heavy and carrying emotional baggage from my upbringing. A lot of things from my past, especially toxic family and difficult relationships, began to take a toll on me and the relationships of people around me. And I knew I needed validation of what I experienced was not okay. The next question was, were there any cultural beliefs or family attitudes that made you hesitate to start therapy? Yes, there's a strong belief that personal struggles should be handled within, and therapy is often seen as something that is for crazy people. The idea that you should not feel these things and be grateful for what you have because our parents had it worse, or that only people with serious issues need therapy is so common. And again, that's kind of what we talked about in our podcast, and the podcast about just these barriers that stop you, and family plays a huge influence, and for most of us, family's a very important, and it's our first system in our lives that it could really hold us back. So next I asked about misconceptions and barriers. So did you encounter any common misconceptions or discouraging comments from family or friends about therapy? Absolutely. I would always hear things like, terapia, eso es para los locos. People more educated on the subject would encourage me, but I always had the comments in the back of my head. I felt being in therapy meant I was exaggerating my trauma, or what I went through really wasn't that bad. I wanted to connect the puzzle pieces of my past to my current behaviors. That's another thing too, that I've heard before that people say, well, I'm like, I don't see what happened to me as bad, or this wasn't as traumatic as like other people. Like, we compare it to other people. Well, this person has it worse than me, so why would I, like, I'm saying in quotations, take their space in therapy, or like, shouldn't this therapist have this time for someone else that's more, has, I guess, more serious things going on? But like I said, therapy is for everyone. It's not about who has it worse, or there's so many therapists out there. It's a huge important topic. There's that you shouldn't minimize yourself either. Like, this isn't a competition, it's something important. And just because someone like struggled less than you doesn't mean yours is invalid. I watched this YouTuber and I love her. Her name's Lauren Giraldo, and she is she was a new mom when this was going on, but her baby's like over a year old now. But she was saying how, like, when she was growing up, she didn't have a nurse, or she didn't have this extra help or anything like that. And she felt bad about it. Like, she's like, I'm sorry I didn't struggle as you, and my struggles are not the same as you. And I have this help, but it's still hard for me because I am a new time mom, or this is my first time doing things, and things like that. And that's just another thing, like I said, that just because you struggle differently from someone doesn't mean that you're not struggling. Everyone has struggles. Everyone has these types of struggles that might not look the same as to someone else, but that again, you have value, you matter, and it is important. So the next thing I asked her is finding a therapist. So how did you go about finding a therapist, and were you able to find one who understood Hispanic culture or spoke Spanish if it was important to you? They said, I never specifically looked for a therapist who understood the culture because I didn't approach it from a cultural standpoint, solely just for my mental health. After many tries with therapy, I never felt like one of them specifically understood why I deal with the things the way I do. After trying them stopping about 5 times, I felt I needed someone who could understand the dynamics of a Latino household and my family identity and cultural expectations of me. After understanding that I needed to seek a therapist that can understand my background, um, gave me hope again in therapy. I searched for therapists who are culturally competent or who share similar backgrounds because they would understand me and my traumas in a different lens. So that's another thing too, is that sometimes, like I said, our goals for therapy, we don't have the same goals, and but like I said, you could start somewhere and then go to a different therapist or change therapists. Next question, did you ask any specific questions to make sure the therapist was a good fit for you culturally? Yes and no. I would bring up why I did things a certain way or how I grew up, and the therapist encouraged me that I didn't need time defending my actions because she understands my culture and that I am safe. And she had an understanding of Latino family dynamics and the pressures we face. It was important for me to ensure that they would be able to respect and understand my cultural values, and this made me feel like I didn't constantly need to explain myself. So, yeah, that's another thing, that your therapist is not there to judge you or tell you what to do. And that could be hard when we're like, well, you don't get it, but like trying to explain it or trying to like defend yourself, or she said. So like I said, that's another thing. So, positive impacts of therapy. So how has therapy impacted your mental health and overall outlook on life? I'm still in therapy. I unfortunately stopped right now, but when I was in therapy, it was a feeling of interconnectedness. It helped me understand that it's okay to feel vulnerable and that seeking help is for everyone. It has given me the ability to become self-aware and help me understand where my triggers come from. It's like connecting puzzle pieces of your life to behaviors. It's given me tools to cope with stress. I also learned how to set boundaries with toxic family members and prioritize myself and express my feelings in healthier ways. It's also allowed me to forgive myself and let go of guilt tied to my past as the oldest daughter. It wasn't my responsibility to parent my parents or my younger siblings. So, absolutely, like I said before, that isn't your job, it's not your role, and that could be really hard to get out of. Is there a particular tool, coping mechanism, or insight you gain in therapy that you found especially helpful? So, one of the most helpful tools I've learned is self-compassion. The way I do this is talking to my inner child. The way I speak to myself or think of myself is the way I would talk to the child in me. It helped me learn to be kind to myself and accepting my feelings without judgment. It helped me handle triggers and emotions more effectively and be more patient with myself. So that is a huge one. And I remember last episode, I think it was episode 2, that I said that you are doing the best you can, and we're so hard on ourselves, and we have to remember that, it's not a competition. We're not in competition with other people, but that it is important, and that you are important, and reminding yourself that, I think I saw this quote that's like, therapy's like healing your inner child, and for most of us, yes. And just kind of like seeing pictures of yourself when you were a kid, like that makes me, I don't know, I guess emotional to think about. Like it's yeah, like seeing this, I don't know, little kid, and I'm like, why am I so, when I'm hard on myself, I'm hard on that person, I'm hard on her. And I don't know, it helps to reel myself in and try to chill out. So, what advice would you give to someone from a similar background who might be struggling to take that first step toward seeking therapy? My advice would be therapy makes you stronger and admirable. It is not about being weak because you seek therapy. It's about taking control of your mental health. You are strong when acknowledging that you need help and to take that first step forward toward healing. It brings you to the first step of becoming emotionally intelligent. It gives you ways to better communicate, and it makes you understand yourself much more. It's also important to remember that you deserve to heal, and seeking therapy doesn't mean you're weak. Remember, we are the generation of change, and you could be that change for yourself and future generations. You deserve to take care of you. If you could go back to when you were first considering therapy, what would you tell yourself? I would tell myself that seeking therapy is not for crazy people and validate my experiences. It's a sign of strength. I'd remind myself that it's okay to seek support. I would also tell myself that the right therapist can help me be able to recognize and see my strengths and guide me toward healing. I would always say that therapy isn't going to fix me. I will learn tools valuable to take charge of my own emotions and mental well-being. So that's a huge thing too, is therapy isn't a magic wand and can't fix everything, but it could give you the tools to help you and to change things for some things in your life. So I appreciate that person. Again, shout out to you, person A. Appreciate you, love you. So I asked someone else for kind of just interviewing them and the same questions. So let me open up my questions here. So, can you share a bit about when or why you first thought about seeking therapy? Was there a specific experience or feeling that motivated you? So, this is person B, person number 2. So I started seeking therapy around 16, and it was kind of forced on me because I was sent to a psych ward. I was at my lowest, well, as low as it can be for a 16-year-old with a lot of undiagnosed mental health issues that were never addressed or treated due to Hispanic parents never believing in mental health. So for this person, seeking therapy was kind of like really them saying like a lot of undiagnosed mental health issues. For everyone, it can look different, and when you don't seek that help, it could really affect your life and really affect just everyday life. So it can get to that point. So where's number 2? So were there any cultural beliefs or family attitudes that made you hesitate to start therapy? So since my parents didn't believe in mental health, it was very hard for me to get help at such a young age. My parents always told me it was in my head and I was exaggerating, and everyone deals with anxiety and I just need to get over it. It wasn't until I got bad when they realized and got educated on it a bit and encouraged therapy and tried to understand that therapy was needed and that it helped me. What I found most difficult was probably getting them to understand them talking out feelings is okay and needed, and we don't have to just deal with things alone. I would say my parents' reactions at first were kind of nonchalant, like they didn't really believe in it or care, but once they saw it making a difference, they changed their mind. That's another thing too that it's so hard that I guess people don't. It's kind of like, oh, you got to see it to believe it. Like mental health is your thoughts, and again, it affects everything you do, your body, and so you can see it. You just I guess you choose not to see it and choose to think like, oh, it's because of stress or because of what you're eating, and it's like, well, why am I stressed? What am I worried about? And yeah, like I said, ties in together. Let's see. So they said for number 3, finding a therapist. So how did you go about finding a therapist? Were you able to find one who understood Hispanic culture or spoke Spanish? Was it important to you? Sorry, I keep dropping my pen. So finding a therapist was pretty easy in my case, just because, again, I was in the psych ward and they found one near me and put me with her. My therapist was great. She was very familiar with Hispanic culture and them not believing in mental health, although she wasn't Latina whatsoever. She was honestly the best therapist I've had, just because she understood my situation along with how my family wasn't big into mental health, and helped me a lot while with teaching me to be patient with them, since they were just passing on what they were taught. I didn't ask any questions specifically, but I just knew she was a good fit because of the way she was, and explained everything to me to the T on understanding Hispanic beliefs on mental health and therapy. How has therapy impacted your mental health and overall outlook on life? I believe therapy is very helpful and crucial to one who is truly trying to get better and better themselves. I have also learned that it only helps if you want it to. If you go in there and don't speak the whole truth, there's no point in getting the help, because you're leaving out important information that is going to help you overcome whatever it is you're going to therapy about. So you need to be as open as possible in order for it to actually help and work. It's impacted the way I see life in many ways. To this day, I still use some of the things my therapist told me and apply it to my current life situation, and it really helps me a lot. That's another thing too, that they bring up a great point of, you have to be honest with yourself. You, I guess, can't hide things, or try to change things. And like I said, your therapist's job is not to judge you in any way or to treat you differently. So that's beautiful. That's another very important thing that I'm glad they brought up. Some advice for others. So she said, my advice for others is to try it. Therapy is just like going to the doctors to get checked for an illness you have. Only difference is that you'll see these people more often, and they'll explain a little more on how to practice inner healing and coping mechanisms instead of just giving you meds. If you're struggling to take the first step, I promise it's hard, but just try it. It never hurts to see if that's something that actually helps. I promise, go to that first therapy session. You won't regret it. If I could go back to when I first saw my therapist, I would tell myself I'm proud of you, because it took a lot for me to do so. But I also wanted and needed the help, and I'm glad I did it, because a lot of the stuff I know how to deal with today is due going to therapy. So again, I appreciate that second person sharing with me and helping me with the discussion too. So, like they said, it's super important, and finding a therapist can be hard. But we have our cell phones, we have the World Wide Web at our fingertips, and it's important to, look it up, see what you can find, and try it out. If your mental health is really affecting you, be honest with yourself. Push yourself to trying it. Our next couple episodes will dive deep into like where are some places, or what would be some types of therapy as well. But yeah, I think that's it for today. I think we talked about kind of the basics of therapy and getting to therapy, and with that, again, remember, just think about what therapy means to you, what's holding you back, and let's start changing that narrative today. So today we learned about the importance of therapy. So broke down the roles of mental health providers, explored different therapy models. We also heard some, great feedback from those two people about breaking the stigma. So again, I appreciate both of them, and that's something, like I said, I want to hear from you. And I have like my Facebook page and Instagram page where I try to post the episode of next week the week before, so I'll definitely post next week's episode topic. I like to post it on my Facebook page and my Facebook group. So if you're part of my Facebook group and there's a topic that you want to remain anonymous, you have the choice to. So that's why I really push that if you would like to, or send me a message. I really do take, confidentiality seriously. So if you like to share, that'd be awesome. So if you're considering therapy, I encourage you to take that first step. And remember, asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. So check out resources like that, and remember the number 988 for mental health support. So yeah, make sure to... So next week on Wednesday, I'll post a new episode. Oh, it's Thanksgiving week. Yeah, maybe I'll post one, maybe not. Self-care, maybe. Honestly, I think I will, but it's a good one next week too. So be sure to follow our Facebook group and share your thoughts or questions. Thank you for joining this conversation sin miedo, and let's keep breaking the stigma together. All right, love ya, bye.